Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 756. Your favorite media has always been woke. I mean, how does he know what my favorite media is? I didn't know Babylon 5 was woke. I didn't know Castlevania was woke. I didn't know, like, all these other things.
I didn't know Gargoyles was woke.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
And
We could ask that question about anything.
I know. I know.
All that it's only a matter of evidence, which we know for a fact there is none from this show.
We have to be careful with the term woke. Are we talking about woke from 1910, 1913 when it was originated, or is it now the current year wokeness? Is it something that is in between, like maybe during the 60s and 70s, if he addresses media from the 60s and 70s? I don't know. We're going to find out.
For one, through this reverse goalpost moving, I suppose, the activists admit that progressive, which is the term they used back then, is the same as woke.
Okay.
It's just on another step of the whole thing.
It's generic. This is the progressive movements, just with the same coat of paint with a different tinge. Okay.
Yeah, because they're obsessed with progress, always forward. It never stops. There is no stopping point.
Yeah.
So it always goes more. If everything they want now would be established as the new normal, they would then still go forward to the next, even more insane thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because we have had interviews with Stan Lee in the 2000s, and the issue came up about, are some of these characters representative of the LGBT whatever? And he goes, no, that was the furthest thing from my mind. And that's a famous line that we might have heard from interviews, or I think maybe Geeks and Gamers brought it up in one of their videos. And Stan, I mean, if you look at Stan, yeah, he was obviously a free speech guy. He was, I think he was a Republican. He voted Republican at least, but ultimately he wanted to be seen as a writer, as many writers making anything in the 50s and 60s wanted to be seen as. It's kind of like when we think of music, and we think of like Metallica, or we think of like classical music, we think of them, oh, they just make this kind of music. They're not actual musicians. Like, no, they're musicians first, and then they're of the genre that sells. Mm-hmm. Because Stan wanted to be successful as a writer. Whether that was the case is up to debate, but he was trying to make things that sold. And if they sold, he had a job, he was working, Marvel liked him. And all of his ideas weren't all of his ideas. They came from other people. He was the guy that fleshed them out, gave them voice, gave them dialogue. And Jack Kirby was the guy who had the imagination and used the Marvel method to just draw his ideas out. So I don't know too many artists that use the Marvel method or just draw from their imagination purely. They don't have a political bias per se. They could. I mean, I met some that do, but most of the artists I've met that are excellent and draw from their imagination just because they like drawing, do it purely for the purpose of perspective and perception. They see something, they go, okay, I really want to draw a gorilla playing the bongo drums or playing with the drum kit. He's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And he spends all day drawing a gorilla bashing a drum kit. So it has nothing to do with politics. Even if you look at the characters in Marvel, which I'm sure had political leanings, political messages. We can look at Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is this great villain, and this is why we like Stan Lee. It's not because his heroes are political. It's because his heroes, which are superheroes, need a supervillain. That was his focus. He wanted to have a good conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist, or the good versus evil, not per se the political message, even though there was a little underlining here and there.
Well, you could say back then it was more an ethical and moral message, a philosophical message. Now it's propaganda. That's something different. That's something that poses as all of those three things before.
Yeah, when I think of Doctor Doom, I still think he's one of the best villains to come out of Marvel. Yes, he is the leader of his own country, but he has all the hallmarks of a villain, of a supervillain. And you could even argue he is Batman's Marvel, or Marvel's Batman, just on the next level. Like, he does all the things that Batman does. And if you look at Batman nowadays, how they write him or what he can do, he has like the suits, he has the robots, he has versions of himself. It's like, that's what freaking Dr. Doom was doing on day one.
Isn't that Iron Man?
Well, Iron Man is Marvel's nice version of Batman, but the real version of Batman is Dr. Doom. He is a control freak. He's an egoist. He could not only he control technology, he controls magic. He has a crazy backstory. He sacrificed his wife to become a magician and all this other jazz. There's all this crazy stuff with Dr. Doom, and he is supposed to be the countermeasure to Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. And those guys weren't even political. They were just, hey, what would be fun and what would sell if we had an elastic guy who was super bright?
But on that thing, I think Tyler Preston is more on point. Dr. Doom is more Lex Luthor.
Sure. Yeah.
Just I think better written than Lex Luthor.
I think Dr.
Doom is above and beyond Lex, if we're being honest.
There are so many great characters that are villains in Marvel. I'm not saying DC's bad, but there's so many ones that we don't even know about. Like, if you just go look up the top 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 villains of Marvel, you'd be like, what? There's someone more powerful than the Beyonder, or there's someone who could steal the Beyonder, or there was a villain based off Adam Warlock. I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. So
it's like there are mistakes that Lex Luthor has committed that Doom would never.
No, Doom was meticulous. He was Batman in all of his planning. He always, when he asked for help or he teamed up with the good guys, there was always an edge. There was always some angle he was playing, and at the end he would always get it. And that's what I like about Doom. He's like Xanatos plus Batman, but eviler, like more evil.
It's like when he took control of Latveria, he was actually a decent leader. There's some versions in more recent years that paint him as like the guy that the Latverians want out of office, but in more mainstream versions, Doom is actually a very good leader of his country once he actually took control.
And it's such a great example of a villain because he is all the things that a villain is. Like, he's egotistical, he's sure of himself, he is the best that humanity pretty much has to offer. So he's like, I am superior, I should take control, I have the best methods, I believe in all my people, I want to protect them. If you come after me, I'll destroy. Like, he's so like, I'm going to be the best of the best. And he proves it by sacrificing his wife and all this other crazy stuff he does, which is completely evil. And he puts it upon himself to protect his country. So,
does he have his own comic series, or do you only learn about him as when he pops up?
Does he have a Pravda? You mean?
Wait, who?
Dr. Doom. Does he have his own comic series?
Not his own comic. He just shows up everywhere. He's a villain for whatever heroes they want to put Doom against.
It's mostly Fantastic Four, but
mostly Fantastic Four. Sometimes the Avengers, but they put him up against pretty much everyone.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
he's that big of a threat.
He's that awesome.
Yeah, and also before we move on, Plasma Rotom was actually requested to join, if it's all right with you guys.
Let's start the video, and if we're bored to tears, we're going to add some more people because.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's up to you.
Let's give it 5 minutes. If we're not past boredom, then we have plenty to talk about. We'll be fine. I don't want to make this just let's bash the guy and his lack of knowledge because maybe he has a lot of knowledge and we can learn something. I don't know.
Yeah, we can at least try to. Understand his side of the argument.
Yeah. Like we go into it with a neutral position, and then the video usually blows it.
We'll find out. Anyway, this is from his name is. Let's see if I can pronounce this as Italian name. I think Anthony Gramuglia, and this
Gramuglia.
It could be Uglia. I think Gramuglia could be both. G is sometimes silent. It is almost 2,000 subs. This came out on February 23rd and has over 7,000 views. And we've got an 800 to 360 ratio of upvotes to downvotes. So either not too many people know this or only people who are subscribed know his stuff and shared it. Mm-hmm. So they like what they have to say. I haven't read the comments, so I don't know what's what with this guy. But
the claim in the title has been made a couple times by the left, the activists, the crazies, and it is basically I just in the green room I called it backwards goalpost moving. they claim that, oh, we're just doing the same thing we did 50 years ago.
Yeah. No.
Which
yeah.
The move, by which they admit that woke is just the same as progressive, which is the same as socialist, though the strategy is different, and it's always pushing forward, but without an endpoint. So even if everything, all the mad stuff that that they're trying to normalize right now would be normalized, would be normal, the new normal, that would be the world we live in somehow and survive, which I don't think works. They would still want to push further after that, and do the next even more extreme stuff.
I don't think this is as bad as, let's say, the famous line from 1984 that Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia.
That's a different issue. That's a different concept.
I don't think it's that extreme, but it's kind of like saying, well, on the flip side, the bad guys are always compared to Hitler. On the good side, everything that is good is on our side. So it's always this contrast.
The trick about it is that in the 50s, 60s, they had legitimate points to argue about, to push forward. Like when they argue, oh, but in Star Trek, the original series, all these people working together and Kirk and Uhura sharing a kiss. Oh, how wonderful. That was woke. It wasn't woke, but you can still call that progressive if you wish.
Sure.
It brought us closer to seeing the other person and not the skin color. The socialists today, they see the skin color again. They push that forward because it benefits them, because the lack of racism actually made them obsolete. That's why they need to push the racism again, and do it in this twisted way where they say, oh, it's not racism this time, not if we do it, and if we do it the opposite way around, haha. The other thing is that the stuff that they do today has no such justification, because the stuff they do today is not on the levels of ethics and morals anymore. They pretend to do that, but it's just plain propaganda, and it is anti-science. That is where they've lost it. They've lost the plot. And back then, they claimed that they were on the side of human rights. You can read the Human Rights Charter that was written in response to the atrocities of the Nazis, go through every single article, and ask yourself, has socialism, when it was in power, whether in the Soviet Union, East Germany, North Korea, China, Venezuela, Cuba, whatever, has it violated any of these articles? And I spoil you, the answer will be yes, each and every single one of them. They are opposed to all of them. They are only for them when they're not in power. Once they're in power, they wipe their asses with that document.
All right. Anyway, this is a 26-minute, I thought it was 20 minutes, 26-minute video. I don't know how long we're going to go through this, even if we want to. We'll find out after the 5-minute mark, and we'll make the choice to either bring someone else on, to skip ahead, to speed up the video. I'm going to give the guy 5 minutes to see where he's at, because there's lots of topics, not just Marvel. There's other media in there. So we're going to see what he has to say about those things. We might get completely angry and get just jumped to the end. So we'll find out. Anyway, let's go.
The 2 minutes of insanity.
To say this, I really can't. The X-Men, yeah, they've always been woke. They've always been about political messages. They've always had political messages.
It's not the same thing.
The X-Men from the very first issue, they have always had messages, and they're not subtle about it.
Which issue?
The message was don't be a racist to people who are just different from you. Which the woke back then, the word woke wasn't used for this stuff, because it wasn't the same thing. Woke is like the creepiest, most insane, twisted inversion of all that was good.
I'm trying to think of the first edition of X-Men, the comic, where they have like the proto version of the X-Men. Like there's Iceman, he's just all ice, and he's just like this little boy looking guy. There's like reporting, like Iceman reporting, Beastman reporting, and they're all just coming into the scene. And I'm like, I don't think that was too political. I don't really think that was that political at the time when they were trying to come up with the version of the X-Men that they first iterated. So I don't think, unless I'm completely wrong, and you guys can point to the first comic you could read online, I guess, and see what is political in issue 1 of the X-Men.
Well, overall, the idea of the X-Men is that you have people who are genetically different, function different, look obviously different, can do different things, to do play this racial divide thing and this prejudice thing that works for the X-Men. That's the whole difference between Professor X and Magneto. But that is not comparable to what the woke do now, because what the woke do is, oh, you are race X, you are race Y. Race X is evil, race Y is good. Therefore, we must all hate race X, which is the same thing the Nazis did. That's all it is. Woke is the actual race socialism that the Nazis did, just with even more crazy stuff. They speak of racial justice. Racial justice is the one aberration of justice that they don't use in Germany. Because if you translate it into German, it becomes a word that no German wants to speak out loud, because it gets stuck in the throat of Germans. And if you ask them, well, where do you think this word might come up? And they all say Mein Kampf. They all say Hitler's book. Because Rassengerechtigkeit sounds like right out of a Nazi book. Because it is. Well, they didn't have the word, but that's what they practiced. Justice based on who is part of what race.
All right.
Woke left are the real neo-Nazis.
All right.
They are.
Anyway, let's continue with the video.
Tried not.
So a lot of people are upset about Morph, a character whose ability is literally changing his appearance and identity, being gender fluid in the new X-Men 97 cartoon. Yes, the character...
Yeah, because he wasn't. He was just a man. Just because you can change your appearance, just because you have transformation powers, doesn't mean you are now suddenly some magical anti-science thing you invented in your fever dreams or while you were on your borderline meds.
Yeah, I remember when people at the funeral home that my mom worked at saw men with breasts, and they called those hermaphrodites. And I was like, that's probably not the same thing, but they didn't have a word for that at the time. So that's what they called them. So, yes, we can call him a metamorph. We can call him someone who changes his physical shape like Mystique. But it's just we're trying to explain the thing he does as a superpower which does not exist. How do we do that? We don't know. Make up a word.
I'm surprised they didn't do this with Mystique as well.
Yeah.
But it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they tried.
She's non-binary because she could change into anything. It's like, that's not, I mean, she's clearly a female. Like, what are you talking about?
And it's not how that whole thing works. It's a disguise. If you take on a disguise, you do not become the disguise, and you're what you are. Especially, right. This is even more important because they define gender as what's in your head. When he changes his body, whatever in his head doesn't change. Now, by claiming, but he does change his body, so he's gender fluid. That's not the same thing. You meant when you said gender fluid, you originally defined that as, well, your head gender identity changes based on your mood, which is really just what it is. It's just mood changes, mood swings. There's no actual gender change. But that's what they defined it as initially. And now suddenly it has to do with your physical body?
Yeah. I do.
Wouldn't that make him some... Wouldn't you be more correct to call him trans or intersex instead?
There's lots of versions of powers related to personality, and Stanley talks about that in his interviews. But the one I remember the most is an Outer Limits episode where this alien-like creature who, humanoid, has 2 arms, 2 legs, but is just like this ape-looking creature with this weird-looking face, and completely alien. Obviously, it's done prosthetics, but she's able to make her look like whatever she wants. It's a female, but she's able to change your mind and everyone around her to make her look like whatever she wants. In that case, the most attractive woman that you could imagine. And this is how she would go about living her life because she had nothing. She was an alien. She had no relation to humans, so she had to learn to adapt. And that's what she would do. And it sort of ends with the original male discovering, oh my God, you're not you're not a real person. You're a shapeshifter, whatever. And she's trying to explain, well, yeah, this is how I live. I'm sorry, but I got to go now because now you've discovered who I am. And then you see her changing her form to another beautiful woman and jogging off and meeting some other guy on the jogging track, and off they go. So there's plenty of stories of people using, or people with superpowers using their abilities and being detrimental to their lack of abilities. So like Smallville, when we meet the Flash the first time, the Kid Flash, I can't remember his name. He is just as slow as everyone else when he's asleep. So he always steals, and he always rents an apartment, a really rich apartment, so there's lots of security, so no one could bother him. And he takes off, no one can catch him. So there's always this mentality of, oh, superpower, what's the limitation? He's human in some capacity. What is that humanity? The thing that makes him like everyone else. So how you describe that is up to the writer.
And Tyler Preston mentioned in the chat this thing nobody wants to be reminded of, that they changed the lore, they retconned the backstories of characters, in that here they made Mystique now into the biological father of Nightcrawler, whom she gave birth to through her butt.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Really.
And
This is such bullshit. They did not do this 30, 40 years ago.
That's kind of
it's the equivalent of mental gymnastics, because for decades she had already been retconned before to be his mother.
Well,
yeah, but that's not progressive enough. That's not woke enough.
It's one thing to
it
have.
It needs to be, and that's why the I'm sorry that I keep talking so much on this. The example you brought up with the 1984, we've always been at war with Oceania, that's the wrong example, because that's something else about the present, what the present does, who the enemy is. That's something that in an inverted way comes up in Cannon Fodder, the third episode in Memories that we talked about yesterday for a short time. Where nobody knows anymore who the enemy actually is, because it doesn't matter. It's just that the regime keeps going. The example that does apply is in Stanislav Lem's Star Diaries, where the main character visits a planet that has reached the end stage, where everyone has basically died out, except for a few immortal people that torture themselves for fun, because they have nothing else to do. Gets to a planet that has gone to the infinite conclusion of socialism's obsession with overcoming the boundaries of the body and the boundaries of the mind. That's the story where you have biological chairs growing in a forest out of the ground, and people turned into bone chairs and such for vanity and because they like it, and other mad nonsense. That is where socialism ultimately goes. And Stanislav Lem had thought that through, because this is not a thing that they only came up with now. This woke stuff, this everything changes, all the biology must be scrambled up. This was a core tenet of socialism 100 years ago, and even longer ago. They just did not have the means to push for that, and had they gone about that then, they would have just been branded as the crazies they are. Now they've pushed step by step, like cutting a saucer, like cutting salami, slice by slice. They cut themselves forward to this point where they can now begin to push this stuff, and we're at large somewhat apathetic to it. We are still opposed to it, but we're apathetic to it enough. Because they've pushed for so much other crap.
I don't think the X factor that was originally introduced to explain all this variability with the powers that people have in the X-Men universe, the Marvel universe, would attribute itself to different forms of procreation. I don't think that was the case. No. I don't recall.
That has nothing to do with that. That was just a way to, hey, let's have superheroes and also make them consistently different so that we can have this allegory towards hating the other. Because the thing is that the American society and the X-Men society within are both made up of all the races. So you need something else that differentiates them,
Well,
and that is you're mutants. We are not.
I wanted to go with that understanding because that's kind of the basis that we look at all the various mutations that these kids turn into, or Apocalypse, like all these weird different versions of mutants, but I don't recall any other one changing how they procreated. That's maybe some lay eggs. I don't know. I don't remember reading about that. So it is possible.
Just they have the X gene or they don't. That's
it. And then sometimes mutations occur, or radiation occurs, or something changes when they hit puberty, or maybe before puberty, and then boom, they get all these different abilities. So, but yeah, like
the X gene does manifest usually during puberty.
Yeah, and that was a natural metaphor for what it meant to be an adult or growing into an adult during your teenage years, and that's why people love the X-Men. Like, I can relate to Spider-Man. Wow, it's amazing. So there's all kinds of great symbolism to be had. I just never knew that they changed how they procreated or reproduced, rather.
Tons of things.
Anyway, let's keep going.
One addition.
What?
Then it's over.
Yes.
Alexei Tabakov in the chat said, also gender swapping stories trope is rarely about trans people. Thank you. That is true. It's about something else.
Okay.
They're just fetishizing the whole idea and go like, oh, it's the thing. Oh, it's so amazing. It's like Jesus freaks.
That's a normal.
They hear Jesus and they go, oh, it's so amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, gender swapping.
There's no thought involved. It's just
changing the
reaction.
age, changing the fashion. This is very common in comics all around the world. There's nothing to do specifically with Marvel, I would say. But I saw kid versions of DC Comics. There's dog superheroes. There's all kinds of silly things that writers come up with.
But they mainly did it for fun, or because they had an interesting story to tell. Now they do it. Now they just do it to do it because they get off on it. Because they think we must do this to be more progressive and to be more awesome.
It's kind of sad because
the trans people love us.
The 80s and 90s were really fun, and they were allowed to afford doing these weird comics and different variations of covers and foil covers and whatever. But that was the craziness of the 80s and 90s, where you got these amazing, like the Infinity War and all these other crazy stories that you weren't expecting. But it was all at the expense of the publisher saying, yeah, let's try that. We can do that. We can afford that. We can see if people want that. And all of a sudden we have like Generation Next and all these other iterations of the X-Men in different forms with different heroes. So anyway, those days are long gone. So let's keep going.
Who constantly changes his identity might not identify as male. What a shock! How scandalous!
No, you retconned the character.
Changes his appearance, not his identity.
These people can't tell that apart because they have actively, when they moved on to woke ideology, from just your box standard progressive socialist to woke socialist, they added they changed identity to be defined solely by your outside, by what you appear as. Because to socialists, the material world doesn't exist, only the spirit exists, only the mind exists. And that leads to that everything is performative, meaning that whatever you role play as is actually you.
Well, this is an exaggeration of what he thinks the character is, and unless there's an actual psychological element to Morph going, every time I turn into a character, if I stay too long, I tend to become them. Some part of my psyche is like that. But the only time I've seen that is in either a Sandman comic or a Lucifer comic, where there's a demon who possesses a person that was either about to die or he killed them, and he becomes them and he takes over their life for a few weeks. And if he stays too long in that body, he forgets his nature of being a possessive demon and just ends up becoming that person. And it happened with a cop, I think. And it was sort of like this hell he was going through, but it got better because he had a loving wife and a daughter. And he's like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And he I don't know if it was Morpheus or it was some other being that kept him trapped in there. And I thought, okay, there's an interesting story of a metamorphic person or demon who is now using his skill and being punished by it, and it makes sense that he would then take the identity and the memory of all of this person he's currently possessing and slowly becoming. Kind of like, what's that game with Cyberpunk, with becoming Keanu Reeves? You're slowly becoming Keanu.
But there's a... Oh God, it's ages ago that I read that. But when he leaves that, because that human dies eventually, naturally, when he leaves that body, he becomes himself again.
It's been a while, yeah. I can't remember if it was Sandman or Lucifer Comics.
That's usually the thing. So it's just that he's trapped in the mind prison of the person that is now technically alive again, but not with its soul, but with the demon running it instead of the soul.
Yeah, but he's not doing anything demonic. He's just like trapped. I can't act out. I'm too much into this person. And I thought, oh, that's kind of freaky. But that's something that I think Gaiman would probably either write or approve of. So anyway, he is. I think the Mr. Anthony here is projecting a bit too much and thinking, oh, because shape-shifting, therefore identity changes as well. It's like, no, not more.
Just because you have this is the same reason why they insist that if you cross-dress, you become the other sex. If you cross-dress, you are trans. If you put on a skirt, you are a woman.
Okay.
Because that's the entire justification.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Film at 11.
A lot of the internet talking heads have acted like this is some huge deal, even though Morph isn't even the first non-binary X-Men in the X-Men. Mystique put a baby in Destiny.
Yeah,
that was also garbage.
Already, yeah, how old? What year was that?
That was very recent.
Yeah, so yesterday. So you argue that we have to accept this because last week you already did this. The crazy thing is that the socialists, the progressives, who always complain about the conservatives being stuck in the past, being stuck with tradition, now, when they want their stuff normalized, they argue from tradition. That it's been done before, like yesterday, so we must do it again. We must be allowed to do it again and more of it. This is not a slippery slope. This is salami tactics. Slice by slice, they move forward, and they don't ever let you move back.
Is this the implication that Mystique can change her physical sex, produce functional gametes, and then have sex with a female and inseminate them? Is that what he's saying, or is that what the storyline goes through, or what? Just magic? We get babies? Like what's the case?
Ingeman, can you explain to us Mystique's actual powers, how it works?
It's basically like it's just scales over her skin that change her appearance. That's it. That's the basic gist.
Okay,
so her insides aren't changing.
Yeah, the iteration that we have is just magic. It's just stuff happens and she has a baby.
Which is why she can pretend to have clothes on.
Yep. Purely cosmetic.
Yeah, well, usually when you have writers who do things like sex and murder and death and all these very particulate things, the better writers are the ones who think it through and say, well, how did this actually happen physically, psychically, chemically? I don't care what level of explanation they're using. If it's dimensional crap or magic, like there's got to be something. And if we're talking about the X-Men, it usually comes down to genetics and biology.
That's the whole explanation for the X-Men. That's the whole shtick.
Yeah, you have to go some route. I don't care if Mystique is magical or not. Tell me how she did that. And if it makes sense...
By this logic, she should be able to un-X-Men herself.
Oh, really?
Because if she can change what gametes she produces, if she can change her ovaries into testicles, then she can change any other genetic aspect of herself.
Yeah, I think,
which is not what her power is.
Her cells would be. I mean, you could talk to a biologist about the wonders of transforming cells back to their primal state, like the stem cells. and going back to something else. They've actually conducted experiments of taking like liver cells and turning them back into stem cells and then back to...
It's also the closest, because they're the closest to it. There are also some stem cells left in the liver, I believe.
It's fascinating stuff that they can do. So if they want to use that, like current year science technology experiments, and go, this is what she does, and you have like data to not to reference the frickin' study, but just to use data in an intellectual way, using the proper terms, a reader can go, whoa, these words are new to me. I'm going to go learn something on the internet. What is a stem cell? What's this? I think there's a word like genesis, biogenesis, something like that. Oogenesis, I believe, that you could transform things into other cells. That is something that at least has some reference, some intellectual capacity that the writer went, let me think about this. This isn't magic. This isn't future technology. This is basic morphology. If we turn cells into other cells, now we have a superpower that makes sense from a biological level, and boom, you got someone interested in biology. I mean, this is what science fiction, this is what fantasy does. It stimulates your mind to think differently, and all of a sudden, like stuff like death and pregnancy, that's kind of the bread and butter of humanity. Like we live, we die, we procreate. So that's going to be attracted to someone. Someone's going to be like, wow, that's fascinating. Let's read more about Mystique, and she can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe she has a backstory of doing that to something else, to someone else. That would be brilliant.
To do to go from one sex to the other, at will, that requires so much knowledge. If it's a conscious move, so much knowledge about the different biologies of the male and the female body,
right? Because
they function completely different.
She would be
on a hormonal level, a cellular level. The organs function different. They serve slightly different functions. It's the amount of differences between the sexes is insane.
When we talk about omega level mutants, and there's all kinds of stories in the future. I remember reading Generation Next, not X, but Next. It's the future version of the X, Generation X school. The abilities of those heroes were so over the top. Like, like in the future, Magneto is an omega level mutant. He's so powerful. He can manipulate all kinds of things. And for people that could change, they're metamorphs, they can change their bodies. They could like turn their whole body into acid. Like I think her name was not Skin, but I can't remember her name. It was this blonde chick, and she would tear Husk. Her name was Husk. She tore her skin off and turned to whatever material she wanted, and she could tear that material off and turn back. So it was constantly shedding her skin like a snake. But in the future, she could just turn it into like freaking gas and acid and all kinds of crazy elements. And that's where the fantasy comes. Like, wow, this is a great, cool idea. I don't think it ever came to, well, I'm going to turn into a man, inseminate some women, turn back into a woman, get pregnant, and then wait a second, no, I can't turn back because I got to...
And then get pregnant in my butt.
I don't know. Like it's
no.
It's a bit too much.
Can you imagine the other kids teasing that kid in school?
Well, if you're going to be a metamorph and you're going to be omega level or going to approach this transformative biology you've got, there would have to be some knowledge of biology and tissues and cells, how they work, how genetics works. Like she could talk about, well, I already have some knowledge of the Y chromosome and my X chromosome. I could use some of that. Like there would have to be all these experimentations, some backstory, history explaining why and how and what happened and what failure occurred, and all this beautiful stuff about Mystique. Like, wow, what a great character. She's learning about her powers, and she's basically a walking biology experiment. But they didn't do that. So, anyway.
That strikes me as just very silly is this shock, the horror that X-Men would explore social issues when... have you read the...
No, we're not shocked about X-Men exploring social issues. We are annoyed that you put not social issues into it, but your anti-science fetishes.
So everything woke is social issues? Is that what he's trying to say?
That's what they're trying to peddle it as. Because the idea is everything is political, so they get a say in everything and get to control everything, and everything political is social, and we just do all the social stuff, which is how we get all the political stuff, which is how we get all the power.
Well,
and is Mott and Bailey the right term here?
Not quite. I would say like the video we covered previously, like Heinlein, the book deals with lots of political issues. That's not a woke book, nor is it a crazy talk on what it meant to be in World War II or anything like that. It is war, but there are very different approaches to dealing with science fiction issues or issues in science fiction in the future of a opposing force which we cannot communicate with. What does humanity do to survive? Well, we militarize, and that is not a right wing reaction. That is not a left leaning. It's just we have to survive. We need a military. We have to have a conscription. We have to have people joining, incentives for that, etc. It's not just it's war, therefore it's right wing or right leaning or conservative or whatever. That's silly. War has been going on for forever. It's not a political issue per se. It's just what people do.
Yeah, the old X-Men is just weird-looking people with scary powers.
Yeah.
What they do now is everyone is gay, everyone is trans or subdeviation of that they invented, and butt babies.
Apparently, being a mutant is not progressive enough for them. They've always been progressive. It's like, they've always been mutants, so they've always been different.
I think it's just a backwards admission that we've always been communists.
Why
are you surprised that we just built gulags? We were always communists.
Can't you tell Republican Stan Lee is a communist? Like, what?
You didn't have a problem with us for the past 70 years. If you had such a problem with us, you should have locked us all up, but you didn't. So you're apparently okay with us putting you all in gulags now. So why are you complaining?
Well, there's a lot going on.
By the way, we caused another famine.
There was a lot going on in the 50s and 60s, especially the 70s. So I think Stan Lee was inspired by many things. And I don't know if the civil rights movements or the Cold War or going into space was limited. He was not limited to one thing, I think. So I don't think the idea of Kirby or the visual ideas of Kirby and the dialogue of Lee was one note for sure. I don't think so. Anyway.
Seriously.
Look at them. Peace with each other.
Before we really get started and dive into this topic, take the time to like and subscribe
Okay.
if you are interested.
Wouldn't it be a justification to not listen to socialists because they fight each other all the time as well? So we don't even know which one is the good one. That we should definitely give another chance.
We'll listen if people want us to. Other than that, I don't really care.
More content from me. It helps the channel a lot. Waste too much time talking about this. Let's get started.
I will bring you hope, old friend. And I ask only one thing in return. Don't get in my way.
So, the X-Men, mutants. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby first used mutation as an easy solution to the question, how did this character get superpowers?
Well, in order to get a new superhero, you have to think of what his or her power is. That's not too hard, but you have to figure out how did they get that power, and that's a little difficult. I can't have them all be bitten by radioactive spiders.
But by issue 14, we had already seen the Sentinels, machines designed to hunt down and kill all mutants. So there was already
Can we speed this up?
Yeah, this is... He just brought up two different ideas that have nothing to do with each other. Okay.
Because he's also talking very slow.
Yeah, 1.25. Here we go.
So there was already messaging to begin with, connecting mutants to minority groups.
What?
Yeah, well, that is true. That is the original idea.
Wait.
Well, not minority groups, but the other.
What is...
So that the melting pot had an actual other that it could other.
But what does this have to do with Sentinels? How does this connect?
They hunt the mutants.
No. We went from Stanley explaining that we can't just use mutant spiders to make another superhero, and then he jumped to Sentinels, and I'm like, these are minority groups, and I'm like, those are three different ideas. What are you talking about?
Well, I get the feeling that He's gonna say that the Sentinels are analogous to cops.
Oh.
Oh God, Copper Owl.
Anyway.
He said, "Oh shit, I get into fights with this guy on Twitter all the time. He's lying. He's never had an interest in X-Men and his male moralities."
Wait,
God!
Wait. Let's work with what we got.
That's a tough call.
He introduced 3 ideas here. I want to know how they connect because I'm a bit confused.
Claremont revamped the X-Men comics in the 70s. Mutants as an allegory for discriminated minorities.
An allegory? They were always an allegory. It never. If you give me a bunch of people in spandex that have superpowers on issue 1, they're already different. They're already a minority by virtue of being
in spandex.
That can fly or manipulate things with their mind. Like that goes without saying. We don't need to label them anything else. It's if I see a kid fly, I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. They're in the minority. I've never seen that before. It's like, yeah, no kidding.
I identify as Gandalf.
In the 70s, they're labeled as minorities. It's like they're freaking mutants. They take up like 5% of the population, or was it like 2%? I can't remember what the ratio was in Marvel Comics, but it was like obviously they're in the minority. But that's never been an issue outside of was it the Secret Wars, or I'm trying to remember what was it must have been the early 70s where they brought in all these bringing the mutants into pens and getting a registration going and all the fight that took out between Magneto.
The Mutant Registration Act.
Yeah, I mean that's been there since the first iteration of the X-Men. So I don't know.
Yeah, there was already precedent for it.
I don't think we have to wait an entire 15 years to get to the 70s. And now let's talk about minorities. It's like they've already been doing that.
To overt text.
When I was a child, my people talked while others prepared for war. They used reason while others used tanks.
Claremont's run on the...
Okay, whoa. If you guys don't remember, Mr. Magneto was a survivor of the Holocaust. You technically could call that a minority, but that's not what this guy's referring to. So...
The 90s cartoon was also made at a time where where the version of him being a survivor was when he was an adult when he got out of there.
Oh, okay.
Because it got retconned later years later that he was a kid when he got out of the camps.
Yeah. He had a sister too, I think. So
because sliding time scales.
Yeah, again, you could call survivors of the Holocaust minorities, but that's not why we use the term minorities, at least in this context.
X-Men. All the stories we reference when talking about X-Men. But even Stan Lee admits he saw mutants as an allegory for minorities.
Social issues I try to get in the background or underlaying a plot.
Now, the Lee Kirby era was more...
in the background. Yeah. That's fine.
As a secondary element.
Yeah, because at
the forefront was the actual story and the characters.
Yeah, because that's how life works.
Yeah, but that's great.
Life is not the propagandistic moralizing.
Yeah, which
is what we have today.
If you or I make a story and we have a secondary character, a tertiary character, or I don't know, we have an ongoing plot, and then we have this sort of sub element like, oh, my mom died. It's like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, how do you deal with the death of your parents? That's a big story. That's a big subplot if you want to address it. But the story is not about going to a wake and dealing with grief. That could be part of it. That could be a sub story, but that's not the main story. That's normal. So whatever this guy is saying is like, oh yeah, Stan Lee's not a stupid guy. We get it. Yeah, he could be talking about all kinds of issues, but that's not what he was trying to do. He was trying to sell comic books of interesting characters that happened to be like you and me. They happened to be teenagers at the time, and they were going through the many escalades of life. I don't see what he's getting at here, unless he addresses a specific comic or maybe a series of comics. We can say, look, it's Captain America against the Nazis again and again and again. You're like, okay, yeah, we get it.
But Claremont, he didn't hold back. Famously, the graphic novel God Loves Man Kills is an overt allegory. Reverend William Stryker and his Purifiers can easily be read as an allegory for the Klan or the evangelists pushing the satanic panic of the 70s and 80s.
Okay, so you got one plot.
Or the socialist, or Anita Sarkeesian calling everything sexist and racist.
This is good because he's addressing one plot line by one writer. That's great. You know how many writers there are for Marvel over the years? Hundreds, if not thousands. So that's good. This is probably accurate, but this is called cherry picking. And I'm not saying this is a bad allegory or a bad story, but we all know that these things change with the writer, and they will write whatever Marvel allows them to publish.
Just as would be an allegory for figures like Rush Limbaugh, who for years would read the names of AIDS victims and laugh. Oh, and speaking of AIDS, what do you think the legacy virus from the X-Men was? A disease that only affects mutants, turns their own bodies against them? Something the greater world, even other heroes, don't seem to care much about.
Yeah, but that virus spreads differently. It doesn't spread through anal sex, which is a choice.
Is he trying to equate AIDS to the legacy virus?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Look, okay. Here's your PSA for AIDS. Use protection. Anal sex transmits more STDs than male-female genitalia sex, as we have to call it now, I guess. Possibly, maybe. Depends on how the genitals identify, I suppose. But that stuff spreads it less to a like marginal degree because the tissue is made for that. Anal sex isn't actually intended by nature. The tissue isn't made for the forces that happen there that causes micro ruptures, so you get a constant exposition to the bloodstream. That's why infections happen there so often, and that is why the homosexuals, mainly the men, have AIDS. Because they do it unprotected through the back door. If they did it protected through the back door, they might have it less. But then you also have crazy people like bug chasers and other things other people that want to spread the fucking disease because as if they're possessed by it. It's completely insane.
Simply put, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be some creative intent behind associating this with that. I just think because the 80s, that was the big scare. AIDS was the big thing because it became known. And maybe the writers, I don't know, when was the legacy virus introduced? I can't recall in Marvel, but maybe that was just a sign of the times. One writer writing about the legacy virus.
And since the chat is asking, how does the legacy virus spread? Is it unprotected butt sex?
No. I don't know how a specific virus only attacks mutants is associated with AIDS. Can anyone tell me? Are you trying
because AIDS seems to only target, or mainly target, gay people or young children for some strange magical reason, where there's always a male relative in the family who has AIDS. It's very strange how that spreads just so often to children, just like the monkeypox.
I really don't think that this was the intention of the writers. I really, really don't think that was what they wanted to say with the legacy virus. It's just...
No, it just wasn't.
Okay. Anyway.
Aggressive voices in comics at the time are the X-Men. Reaction to the AIDS crisis head on.
It's telling that the legacy virus was cured around the time that
That
AIDS became a
sounds right.
treatable illness.
But once the virus spreads to the mutant population and combines with mutant DNA, it theoretically could become incredibly deadly.
The X-Men proved one of the most diverse teams in terms of overt composition as well. While Black Panther and Jon Stewart are among the first black superheroes, Storm is one of the first black female superheroes. And she was positioned almost
cares?
as one of the key players in the X-Men. Professor X is a disabled man. Magneto and Kitty Pryde are both Jewish, with Magneto especially being both a Holocaust survivor and a Romani. I think it's also telling that Colossus, a Russian hero, became iconic during the height of the Cold War. I mean, that's not even getting into sexual.
Now, since he was talking about, brought up that scene with Magneto talking about reason, his people being about reason, which means the Jews that he just mentioned. Socialism mainly comes from that very same demographic, which strangely enough seems to have beef with its own people. All the anti-Semitism that comes from socialism, which was invented by Jews, at least in modern days, is a very strange thing that where they try to make it about, everyone else hates them. It seems rather in infighting inside that demographic. And the whole thing with that is, with the reason thing, because Marx and Engels argued that, Hegel argued that before them, is that they talk about, it's about rational thinking. It's doing the rational thing, the reasonable thing. It's about reason. But tell me, what is reasonable about socialism? And even more so, what is reasonable about trying it again and again and again and again after seeing it always leads to the same outcome? That's insane. There's nothing reasonable about that ideology, and there's even less reasonable about giving it another chance. So why should we listen to any of these people about anything? Because any of the good things they tell us, we can have those without socialism. We can probably even sustain them without socialism. Because under socialism, it's all just a lie.
I'm still trying to.
The good things disappear once they are in power.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around, like, if a writer, like, this is done in the 90s, that the legacy virus was brought in, and it lasted for like 8 years or whatever. You could say that the stigmatism, the symptoms are similar to the effects of someone with AIDS, but we're talking about superheroes or people with superpowers. Superheroes are already seen as these amazing, like, oh my God, sort of people. And now it's like, oh my God, and you're dying. It's like, do you feel sorry? Like, I don't see a gay man or whatever and go, oh, he's dying. Oh my God. Like, I don't see him as a superhero. I just say, oh, he's a guy with a deadly disease. I hope he's okay. And I don't make the connection between AIDS and legacy virus of a comic book.
Because that's not the actual connection. If you look into history, and if you want to do the really hard interpretation that the X-Men themselves are just representative for the Jews in World War II, in the Holocaust, the Nazis were, for a fact, researching into biological weapons that would target only specific demographics to get rid of the Jews or any other races that they might target later. That's what this is based upon. And eugenicists love to research into this stuff. People are researching into this stuff today, and that should scare the hell out of people.
All right.
Obviously, Mystique has been retconned into being bisexual. It's pretty obvious her and Destiny have a thing for each other. But then there's North Star, who first
that's
appeared in
friendship.
X-Men 120. A member of the Alpha Flight, North Star later came out as the first openly gay superhero. According to artist John Byrne, the reason for this was he was reading studies in the 80s that indicated that homosexuality, rather than being a choice...
See that many times you use the word gay? Yeah, it's amazing. That's great.
As many at the time believed, was something you were born with, much like mutation itself. So it made sense that a mutant would be gay.
What? Because you're this has nothing to do with anything. Who cares?
Mutation can happen in various ways. You are not necessarily just born with a mutation. A mutation can happen along the way through environmental hazards. Exposure to radiation.
This is argument from...
That doesn't kill you, for example.
This is argument from nature. That's fine. But that has nothing to do with anything, I don't think.
Oh, but if we do argument from nature, where suddenly genetics are a thing, where biology is a thing, how can we then also argue for non-binary nonsense and gender stuff that is totally disconnected from the biological?
Well, they don't know the difference, so anyway.
Because your brains are apparently not biological?
Well, not to them. I don't know. don't know.
Well, if they don't have brains, then of course that could change.
Okay. Anyway.
North Star was followed by several others, including Wiccan, Magneto's grandson. Of course, Iceman, one of the founding members of the X-Men, has been retconned into being a repressed homosexual for most.
Not retconned. Forced.
Yes, brainwashed. He's mind spelled to fulfill the fetish of another character. That's disgusting. That's abuse. That's probably the worst type of. This is an allegory for sexual abuse.
Was it as a result of the Phoenix doing crazy shit?
No, it was the original Jean Grey died as Dark Phoenix, and they brought a rebooted version of her through into the future, into the present day, and she's the one that did that to Bobby.
Was there a reason?
I don't fucking know, other than the fucking agenda.
That's just evil.
It is.
This is so to give an explanation to these crazy people. This is like forcing a gay man to become heterosexual through magic powers against his will. You understand that? It's conversion therapy, or rather worse than therapy. That's what you do, and it's what you use as justification. So, hey, let's do more of it. You are evil.
All right. Okay. Let's keep going. We're at 5 minutes.
You want to bring in Plasma Rotom?
I don't know. There's a lot to like. He says things and he jumps to the different topic, and we're like, whoa, what are you talking?
He's just bringing up every example he can. What's that? What's the name for that?
Shotgunning? I don't know. Just boom.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, where he's going staccato all his examples, so that we don't even have time to counter anything. That's if he was in a debate.
Okay.
Gish-Gallop. Thank you, Jay Jameson. He's Gish-Galloping.
Many people too arguing that all gay undertones of X-Men are some new creation. Either that or Jean Grey made Iceman gay somehow, which is just a dumb idea.
That's what happened.
Yes.
It is a dumb idea. Thank you.
The way it worked is the time travel brought the younger version of Iceman back, and Jean Grey read the younger Iceman's mind when he was less repressed and found that he was gay. Based on the time...
When he was less repressed? What?
You're just running with the retcon that somehow he was always gay because you now decided that he was always gay. So therefore he was always gay. You are evil.
This is
just vile.
This is weird. It's like saying because I could read minds and because I went back in time and you were more gay than
she went forward in time.
Okay, but either
to the present.
This is
because the original Jean died.
This is now implying that some aspect of his psyche or his sexuality was homosexual. And she went to the specific time where he was the most, or the least repressed, rather, and therefore said, "Hey, you're gay," and he went, "Oh, I guess I am." So is it nature or nurture? Which one is it?
You cannot suppress the gay all your life. It's not something you repress that way.
Even then, he didn't even have the gay. The whole thing of him being gay was just a joke that fans were making.
Which some people took as an excuse to make it, just like they use shippers in order to force plot because they're uncreative hags.
Okay.
Looking at you, Cora.
Affect the 616 modern Iceman at all. The new kid. So the argument that Jean Grey made Iceman gay is just illogical, makes no sense.
Why?
Yes, she did.
No, that's what she did. That's what she did. And she deprived him of a normal life through this mind control. Mind rape, actually.
Maybe we should read...
How dare she mess with his psychological development?
Maybe we should just read that comic and see what the hell just happened, because I'm quite sure if a psychic goes into your mind and starts pulling stuff out...
Dude, Sarek and Bears wanted to make a comic based on that explores this whole abuse that happened.
Wow.
And then go on a revenge story.
Jesus. Wow. That sounds interesting. I don't know.
It would have.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to make your own version of Jean Grey and pulling, like, what was that guy from Heroes who could pull thoughts out of the Haitian? You could pull thoughts out of your mind and just, I can't remember what happened last night. It's like, yeah, because we tore it from your brain, and he has to be very careful, or else people aren't the same afterwards. So I thought, hey, that would be interesting if you can have a whole story of people that had this happen to them. They all sort of come together about forgotten times in their life, but they're happy or different, or maybe they're sad. Who knows? Anyway.
It's not brainwashing. These people have obviously not watched the 90s X-Men series either. When a half-naked Sabretooth keeps...
So, what? First off, it is brainwashing. Second, it is also retconning, and neither is okay. Because now you want us to accept the retcons as, we always retconned the shit into the gay stuff and all this other horrible, stupid anti-science nonsense on top of it. You're not making a point for yourself. You're rather shooting yourself in the foot. The only people who buy this are people who already buy into your shit. Just like the only people who get turned into neo-Nazis by Hitler's stupid book are people who are already neo-Nazis.
I think the problem with Marvel and any Western comic is the retcons happen for good or ill, and sometimes it's interesting. With I think Secret Wars is a good example. Some people like Amazing Spider-Man, some people don't, or iterations of the X-Men.
Oh, with Secret Wars, everything sucked.
There were some crazy things that you're like, yeah, that's not for me. So it depends on who you ask. But retcons and comic books are kind of hand in hand. And that's sort of my bane, because it's sort of like, oh God, what are we changing? Wolverine again? Are we changing now? Iceman? Oh, now he's gay. It's like, what? Do we have to do that? Was that necessary? I understand if you want to do another flashback with Wolverine and he has another adventure you never heard of because he's long lived. You could fill in the blank. That's kind of cool. A lot of writers can fill in those blanks, but to bring people back from the dead again and again is always like, oh, here we go. Now what happened to Jean Grey? Oh, now there's a clone of Jean Grey. Now there's clones of the clones of Jean Grey. Like, okay, that's fun. So it gets a bit stale.
Wolverine down, only for Wolverine to thrust him off like the power bottom that he is, but, I digress.
The power bottom?
The X-Men, pretty socially conscious. It's not subtext, it's not subtle, it's overt. I mean...
It is subtle in subtext.
It's overt to him because he's actively looking for it, and he only sees that and nothing else.
Because he's stupid.
Because he's a fetish reader.
Same thing, at this point.
You know how fetishists read stories? They skim through the pages until they find the part that has the fetish in it. That's what he does. It's cherry picking.
I'm sure there are some writers who are, in fact, subtle with what they're trying to imply, or else they wouldn't be good writers. But with Marvel these days, who knows what they're doing? I don't like to say it's not subtle, because I'm sure writers have some degree. Because when you're writing a comic book, you have to be subtle. There's time gaps between the panels that imply connections, so it's kind of part of the format. You can't remove subtlety out of it.
Yeah, what is overt is what they do now. That's preachy. It's in your face. You must think this. If you don't, you are evil. You must like this. If you don't, you're evil.
Well, that's what he's saying.
If you don't like the butt sex, you are evil.
He's saying it is blatant, and I'm like, well, what's blatant exactly? Give me an example of what's blatant. And he's saying, I guess he's saying it's the wokeness, which is, I'm like, what does that mean? In the iteration of, Jean Grey doing this, it's like, well, if it's apparent that she's doing this, is that a good thing or a bad thing, and why? Because he's just saying Jean Grey didn't cause him to change his brain around. He was always gay. It's like, well, don't you think you don't need a psychic powered mutant to figure that out? Don't you just need like a therapist or someone, or like your friend or your mom to talk about these things? Like, it doesn't have to be, this Professor X scanned my brain. He told me I'm gay. Therefore, I'm gay. It's like, what? What are you talking about? It's a weird conversation that someone like Gene probably wouldn't have. It'd be like the weirdest thing to say. Bobby, you're gay. Like, what? How do you know that? Anyway.
How dare you say that? How dare you decide that about
has
me?
Beast on trial and basically a kangaroo court trying him.
11 mutants disappeared. Taken. All were recent registrants with the Mutant Control Agency.
It's again a very, very interesting way of looking at the matter, indicating that the laws that people follow can be abused to persecute a minority group. Keep that in mind, it will come up later. And that's not even getting into all the concepts like Mr. Sinister's genetic experimentation, a weapon.
Which is another allegory to the Nazis who went through the registers of the citizens to see where all the Jews are and where they live.
Yeah, which has really nothing to do with wokeness. This is when you write a villain, it's like, okay, what's the evilest? Like Mr. Sinister is kind of a weirdo. He's like a fetishist for anything genetic compared to some of the other actually powerful characters in Marvel.
He's worse than Magneto with that shit.
Yeah, he's just creepy. He's this creepy dude. So
the insane thing is that for people who hate Nazis so much, they know absolutely nothing about them.
It's just weird because whenever Sinister's on the scene, he's always like, do we have any genetics from Jean Grey? Do we have any genetics from Scott Summers? It's like, dude, I know you think they're the creme de la creme of everything mutant, but maybe you should like diversify your repertoire. Like, I don't know. It's always about Jean Grey and Scott Summers. Like, okay.
No, I only want the shiny legendary Pokemon. All the others are crap. I want my foil
where
Charmander.
They forced experimentation on mutants, very similar to how in real life, Black, Jewish, and LGBTQ minorities.
What was that? Let me hear that sentence one more time.
Minister's genetic experimentation, a Weapon X, where they forced experimentation on mutants, very similar to how in real life.
Okay.
Black, Jewish, and LGBTQ minorities.
Black, Jewish, nailed? What did he say?
I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what he said.
Okay.
Mentally ill were medically experimented.
Yeah, you know, when they first distributed the vaccine, they gave all the chronically ill, the chronically the chronically disabled who couldn't work, and the old people, they sent letters in Germany that you're in a risk group. That's why you get this amazing vaccine first. You know, the stuff that killed a lot of people. It's as if they wanted to get rid of that demographic because, you know, in that the justification that in those letters was, I got one. The justification was due to your health issues. We looked into your health issues that's registered with the health insurance and determined that you're in a risk group because of your conditions, and therefore you get the vaccine because you are a special risk group of the coup. It didn't list what those conditions were, and I can tell you I have no such conditions. I have fucking autism. So does autism make me more vulnerable to the coup? Or a thyroid issue? Or a busted kneecap? I don't think so. This was just eugenics shit. They still do this shit today. Fucking hell.
All right.
But that might require a bigger
Denied.
What I find far stranger, though, is the tendency for people to act like older media was apolitical, while new media is overtly political.
No. Oh, God. You don't understand. This is your bullshit of everything is political. No, philosophy and ethics are not the same as political. Those are different categories.
There's a baffling tendency by culture warriors to act like movies like the Barbie movie, because Barbie had a trans actor in it or something. I don't know.
No, the Barbie movie was political because it was made for political reasons and was just feminist bullcrap that was so insane it came out the other end due to the incompetence of the writer, which is hilarious and just shows the incompetence of you fanatics. That's the joke of it. RoboCop, well, we talked about Verhoeven's stuff yesterday. It's funny how he fails to accomplish what he wants, but accidentally makes the most amazing movies ever. That's another
Well, that's the same
story.
That's the same issue with Stan. He wanted to make comics that sold and people liked.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about messaging or themes, or it's just like, no, let's make an interesting character with interesting things and make him a superhero. So he's not just a cop, or he's not just a fireman. He has an ability that makes him special. It's like, oh, that's cool. If you had that ability, how would that work? And then how would you live? And then who would you fight? And then you had to have a equally, if not more impressive villain. And that's why we like, at least why I like Marvel, or read Marvel at the time, because the villains and the scenarios they came from were so much more compelling than just, science kid gets bitten and can climb walls. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think he needs to give us a definition of what he means by it is political. Because RoboCop, I don't think it was political. It was about corruption, okay. It was about crime, okay. It makes it in a way about social issues, but corruption is nothing specifically political. Corruption is just corruption. That's a matter of ethics, not of the police making decisions.
Well, it's the same I argue about The West Wing. I say it's not a political drama, even though people categorize it as that, and that's fine, because it obviously takes place in the West Wing. But it could be any office. These are not politicians. These are people working in an office, and they're just talking to politicians, they're talking to other people and having office drama. But they're not actually, there's no political drama. They're not doing anything in the legislature. They're not, they may be talking to lawyers about these issues, and they talk about the issues, but they're not actually doing anything political. They're just organizing things for other people, or talking about whatever the president's doing, or this and that. Yeah, sometimes the president walks around and he does stuff. That's political, but he's an actual politician, whereas everyone in the West Wing is just hired help. Anyway.
What he's doing here is a basic manipulation fallacy tactic. He portrays everything as black and white. That's a straw man. So he says it's political now, and the other side therefore says must be saying the opposite, which is that in the past everything was apolitical, which of course isn't true. It's a straw man. He can just knock down. He can just burn.
All we need is,
because nobody made that argument.
All we need is one example, and pick any random comic from Marvel that has nothing to do with politics, and you'll find it. It's not hard. So,
and he himself said before it's that admitted that before it was subtle. Then he says, "Oh, it wasn't subtle." So he showed us the interview with Stan Lee that it was subtle. He then says it wasn't subtle; it was overt. Therefore, it was always political, in your face. And the other side says it wasn't political. All he says is strawmen and lies.
Well, with Captain America, I think we could definitely say there's definite examples of political messaging, and the conflicts are not necessarily political conflicts, but they have to deal with like an army from another country, or that you could see that as a political struggle, and superheroes are in part of that. So yeah, there are definite examples of it, but it's not all the time 100% that's the theme. Of course not. So this is what I have a problem with these people saying it's always been political. Yeah, but not all the time. So there's subtext, there's themes, there's characters, there's all kinds of nuance. But to say it's always been that way is not correct. There's all kinds of, like, what's the Infinity War? That's not political. That's a god coming around and rearranging existence the way he wants, because he wants to impress death. That's nothing to do with countries anymore. It's something way beyond a bunch of people in North America or the parts of the world mutating into superheroes. No, it's not. There's nothing to do with that. So there's plenty of stories in Marvel and DC that are not political at all.
Yeah. What's the, and if we go outside of Marvel and DC, what's the politics in Spawn? The conflict between heaven and hell? The mafia? Mercenaries? What is it? Yeah, Spawn ends up being the king of the hobos. Okay. Is that political?
Yeah, like
I don't think so.
Look at Punisher. I mean, it's a guy out for revenge against things or people that he sees as criminals. Now you could say, well, that's a political message. He's a vigilante. He's taking the law into his own hands. So that's a municipal issue. Deal with crime. It's like, yes, but the message and the theme is not, are we too soft on crime? It's a guy out for revenge and the drama associated with who dies and why. So, and people watch, I believe, the live action because it was fun. It was awesome. It had lots of great violence and action and lots of fun scenes, like same with the Daredevil. And I think my dad even remembers reading Daredevil when he was a kid, how fun it was. And, you know, he's a lawyer, like the main character's a lawyer. It wasn't about lawyering per se. It was about a man without fear running around stopping crime, and him having the superpower of basically being a bat that can see things coming at him at supersonic speeds and reacting to that. So that's interesting. It's not just a lawyer who's blind. Anyway.
Where anytime a character comes out as bisexual, you can guarantee I got a lot of responses to my video.
Because they weren't before.
No, it's not rage baiting. You've been doing this just in the past years. With everyone. All the fucking time.
A culture war with Japan? Really? Okay.
Oh, fucking hell. The culture war in quotation
arguing
marks.
That I was misrepresenting the argument of Japanese media being affected by the West. I had people throwing around all sorts of insults at me, but they all had one thing in common. They were just words.
Wait. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop the video right there. I wanna highlight this quote and I'm gonna send it to him. I gotta hear.
You can clip the original video.
Yeah.
Japanese media being affected by around all sorts of insults at me, but they all had one thing in common. They were just words.
That's a made-up word.
What was made up?
The word woke started as a word in African American Vernacular English, or AAVE. AAVE is much like any regional dialect. It has words that mean something within its context, but not really outside of it. It's
Wait. So you brought up the culture war and Japan, and now you talk about the word woke and its origin? Do you have scatterbrainitis or something? Am I the only one who's confused here?
Guys, whenever you argue with me and I stop and I think and I go, well, that's just a bunch of words. I think there's something wrong with that line of thinking, and it's not an intellectual issue. This is a form of defense mechanism. If I had like thousands of comments and they were all attacking me and they had I don't know, maybe they were good, maybe they were bad, it doesn't matter. And instead of me addressing the good, like because I would think they have value, I just go, you know what? They're just a bunch of words. They don't mean anything.
I don't like the counter arguments. They destroy my magic bubble. So they're just words. They're meaningless.
This is not a person that, like, I say this a lot. This is not a person I want to talk to. This is obviously not a person we're going to learn anything from. It sounds like that. Who was Sarkeesian's writer at the time? Macintosh.
Never go full Macintosh.
It sounds exactly like something he would say. These are just words, guys. This is not real. What's real is what I say is real. Like, this is the kind of egoism, or I don't want to call it intellectualism because I don't know.
So it's pseudo. So it's part of the pseudo intellectual mind tricks. This is part of how brainwashing works.
I don't want to.
Everything that's not my opinion is just. It's just babble.
I don't want to put him.
Listen only to me.
I don't want to put him in a bad light because obviously we don't agree with a lot of what he's saying already, and he believes this is correct to him. So I don't want to make him feel bad or make us think that we think he's a crazy person. It's just that when you have these dismissal of opinions that are obviously contrary to yours, you don't just go, well, this is just a bunch of people who are angry at me, and they don't understand my intellect. They don't understand me. I'm going to just not even address that. That's where I mean, this is something that maybe when I first released my few videos, I was concerned about, but I never stooped so low as to put myself above everyone else and say, you're just a mouthpiece flapping your gums. You mean nothing. Like, I would never do that unless I literally came across a person in like the BioWare forums who could barely type English and called me a poopy head or something. I'd be like, okay, this is name calling. But even then, it would be name calling. I'd be like, oh, well, I know what he's doing. But there's some logic there.
If he's doing that on that level, why should anyone give a crap about his work?
This is what I'm ultimately getting at, because we're wasting our time trying to. I mean, I would want to listen to him just to see what next crazy thing he says, because there's no rationalization for an argument here. It's just a defense mechanism.
Sophistry.
No, it's not even that. I think he doesn't have the. If he was a sophist, he would be able to manipulate those words and understand them in his own way, and then I don't know, spit them out.
Well, you think of an honest sophist,
okay,
which I find is a strange concept.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to him how he convinces you. It's not for him to make a logical argument. It only matters to him that he convinces you with whatever he's throwing at the wall. It's not about It's not about logic. It's about throwing stuff at you until you have an emotional sway into his direction and accept his position.
Well, either way, I am a little tired of this guy, and I'm just going to leave my comment on his video and call it a day for him. Let's go to some stream memes, if we have any. I don't know. But honestly, I don't think this guy is worth our time, unfortunately.
Well, damn it.
I know. We could do it for the sake of listening to, like, the same way we are in awe of some of the other crazy people we listen to, and then go, oh, what nutty thing are they going to say next?
Hello?
But I think we're done here.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hi guys.
Oh, hey. We're
very unfortunate timing.
We just finished
with this, but
yeah. But we have some stream memes.
Oh, man.
At least we're the memes.
At least I got here for that.
All right.
Anyways, Smud, before we get to the streaming, Smud, I do have some notes here I was making over the course of this. Can I read them out?
Oh, sure.
Can I read them out real quick?
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, hi everyone, and Ginga. Sorry I was bugging you earlier. I was just real eager for this.
No, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and give us your thoughts on the video from what you were able to grasp.
It's not really thoughts in the video. It's just corrections to what everyone said. So how I know Anthony Gramuglia, I know him best for a CBR article he wrote a while back, because yes, he's written for that rag, where he was openly advocating for Spider-Man to be made gay. Why?
Oh, he was one of those loonies.
Because he wants it. Yeah, because he wants it.
Oh, so he is no-realities.
Male no-realities, yeah.
Now, all right, Smud, you brought up the Marvel method, and you didn't know how many people at Marvel still use it today. Honestly, Smud, not many people at Marvel still use it today, because ever since Chris Claremont came on, and Chris Claremont was well known for plotting out all his stories ahead of time. Ever since guys like him came on in, the Marvel method has been used less and less, because that's really just like riding by the seat of your pants. So not so much today, no. Dr. Doom has had comics where he was the star of it, even if the book was never called Dr. Doom #1 or whatever.
He never had his own dedicated books, but they like I said before, like they put him everywhere, like facing up against pretty much almost every superhero in the Marvel universe. There were points they gave him the spotlight.
Yeah, the earliest I can remember was that they had him as one of the features in the anthology book Astonishing Tales. I remember there being a storyline where this dude was trying to overthrow Doom and he stopped him, and I also remember this other storyline where he invaded Wakanda. Basically, there was that.
Good man.
Yeah.
Morph is more well. Anyways, Morph is only a shapeshifter for comedic purposes and for power fights. That's it. There's nothing deeper than that. And he's just looking into it.
It's as simple as that with Morph. Yeah.
Yeah. Smud, the speedster character you mentioned was Bart Allen, aka Impulse from Smallville. Nightcrawler's original dad was Azazel, a demon character.
Azazel.
Azazel, yeah.
Azazel is the pronunciation.
But to the point where even First Class had integrated that detail as early as that in the timeline, in like the 60s era of the movie timeline.
Azazel was a character in that book, but they didn't do much with him, yeah.
Yeah.
Semantics, but God Loves Man Kills was a graphic novel, not a storyline, but again, semantics. The Legacy Virus came out in 1993. Magneto was not envisioned to be Jewish by Stan Lee when he made him. That was a detail Claremont added in.
Oh.
And contrary to what Whisp said, Chris Claremont did want Mystique to be a lesbian, but due to editorial mandates by Jim Shooter, LGBT people were not to be highlighted in Marvel at the time. Because there was a controversial storyline where Bruce Banner almost got raped in a public shower.
Oh yeah. I didn't.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So yes, Mystique was always envisioned to be a lesbian. It just never got highlighted. So,
for damn good reason back then.
Yeah. Anyways,
Well, good
now
shit,
we're
but
ready.
she was probably not envisioned as giving butt birth.
Yeah, no shit.
Anyway, Smud, we can begin the stream memes now.
Alrighty.
All right.
That was a nice addition. Thank you.
Starting with if I can scroll up
Laughing
myself.
Shadow.
March
There's
the
quite a
6th.
few.
Yeah, no, it's Dr. Doom. Please,
I'll vote for him.
Please, there is so much that we must do. You may applaud me later.
Yeah, he was working with Namor at the time too.
Yeah. I don't know if that's that book. I don't think it's FF number 6. I don't think it's that.
It might be. I can't recall either.
I don't remember. That artwork looks way too refined for that. Kirby in the early FF days was very unrefined.
Yeah, the refinement that happened over the years, and then the next one. Actually, everything that is good agrees with my politics. Everything that's bad disagrees with me. In a nutshell.
Okay, you, a mutie, then pride. Gee, I don't know, Phil. Like him? Oh, jeez, I'm not gonna say that.
Are you a N-word? I mean, just substitute it with N-word, whatever.
Okay.
Kitty ain't ever living that down.
How can you all be so calm? Don't you hear what he said? They're only words, child. Suppose he'd called me a lot.
A N-word lover.
You would be so damn tolerant.
You'd be so damn tolerant then. Yeah, right.
That was God Loves Man Kills right there.
This is forever Kurt Wagner's biological father.
Yeah, this guy that guy's from Origins Wolverine, Kestrel, who had the same teleporting power as Nightcrawler and Azazel, but First Class retconned it to be Azazel.
And this pair somehow makes a child with a German name.
Sure.
The X-Men movies have always been terrible at continuity.
Ironically, that's why Azazel makes more sense as the father.
Okay. Maybe he just liked Wagner. Who knows? Anyway.
Possibly.
Flesh chairs mention. That's great.
I don't know whether that's from. So.
Oh, you do.
That's
Wagner just means wagon builder.
Of course, it's Bloodlines. Of course, Mud would know.
Come on.
Of course,
I still haven't played it.
Oh God. Yeah, we have to do another 2-hour talk on Bloodlines.
Of course.
I mean, that we haven't done an actual Smud talk on the damn game, so maybe in the future it's something.
Inga, have you played it?
I already said no.
Well, then that's your task.
There we go.
We can all watch you play it. It will be wonderful.
It's on standby. It's on my wish list, but that's for another day. Anyway.
So here we have the Super Pets. Kind of a weird idea, but people.
Crypto, the Super Dog,
Ace, and Streaky.
Crypto, the Super Dog, Ace, the Bloodhound, Ace, the Bad Hound, sorry, and Streaky, the Super Cat.
Yep.
Public school. I would like to learn how to do my taxes. Some men get periods.
Some men get periods.
Joe Biden. Woke Joe Biden. Whoa.
Oh my God.
Is that the soccer player or is that the...
That's the
yeah.
Player
yeah.
Canada.
Who now tripped and nicked the ankle, and therefore the career is over. It's so sad.
Wah, wah.
Nobody even watched that.
Yeah.
These cows are trans?
Oh Lord.
No.
I'm-
That's just a
The
jo-
jo-
that's
the-
just a
the
joke.
joke is that's just bad designs. The guy
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
Otis from Barnyard on the right. He's supposed to be a guy.
Really?
An interesting
Yeah.
story. An
Yeah,
interesting story about the TV show Back at the Barnyard. They got canceled like right before they greenlit the last season. It's like they improv'd almost that entire season. It's like, what are you guys gonna do? Cancel us more?
Really?
They got canceled before the first season got greenlit. It got greenlit the last season, and they just ad-libbed a whole mess of material in that last season. And then they were doing things that were going to be a bit too risque. And then the executive walked by, it's like, they told the executive, "What are you going to do? Cancel us more? We're already canceled. This is our last season."
I can believe that. I
That's
watched
based.
that show when I was a kid.
That's
I
based.
believe.
It's like they took it in stride. Anyway.
All right, we got. Oh my god, what is happening here?
The crypto superdog one?
I guess
Yeah.
Is that a land whale?
I don't know what that is.
Because it's a team of superhero dogs, and they each have their own superpower.
Oh, okay. Guys, this has always been the case.
My ass.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, trust the guy with no memory.
Are we finally tired of superheroes? The Marvels become another loser in a bad year for Disney.
Do people not want woke crap to be shoved down their throats? No. It must be the superhero movies getting out of touch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sidious.
Let the wokeness flow through you.
Let the wokeness
Losing
flow
200,000
Let-
subscribers, yes. Good. Let the wokeness flow through
Star Wars fans watch Star Wars for its diversity, not for its stories and or characters. I predict our new woke era of Star Wars will sell better than
the previous ones. Out of business. Well, that's the end of E.
Is that Bob Iger? Who is that?
I don't know.
It's just a general Simpsons meme.
Okay.
Just the woke companies in general.
Yeah. It's an old meme. Husk Paige Guthrie, yay! It's one of my favorite characters. She's awesome.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I always liked her concept because there was another guy. There was two guys. One guy called Skin, and one guy called Mondo, I think. And Skin could just stretch his skin like 6 feet. Like, he could just turn it into...
Yeah, I remember Skin, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing special.
Husk is just what? Reptilian underneath?
No,
or?
she could rip her skin off and become whatever she understands to be a compound, like a chemical compound. She could turn it into steel. She could turn it into gas. And then she would become that thing. So she would be always tearing her skin off to turn into something else.
So basically Mystique with a few extra steps.
No, she was more powerful than Mystique because Mystique could only change her form, whereas she could change her composition. Like, she turned into gas, acid. She could turn into lava, all kinds of weird stuff.
Even stronger than Morph.
Oh yeah, there was a guy called Mundo or Mondo. He could morph his entire.
Mondo.
Was it Mondo? Yeah, he was this big
Mondo.
Hawaiian dude, and he could.
Oh, he's Samoan.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Really, I thought it was Hawaiian. Maybe it was the Hawaiian shirts he wore. I don't know. Okay. He could just turn his body into anything. He could just turn into jello. He could turn into bricks. He could turn into whatever.
I have it right here, Smud. Mondo is capable of taking on the properties of any organic or inorganic material with which he comes into contact. So he's basically Kevin from Ben 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Matter absorption.
Yeah. So they
or Absorbing Man, the Thor villain.
Or Metamorpho. No, not Metamorpho. No, Metamorpho could already turn into anything without making contact.
Yeah, they tried to make a version of him. Was it on the live action Generation X?
Well, Metamorpho is basically Husk without ripping skin off.
Okay.
Metamorphos, the dude
Straight
who
up-
has a white head, a purple chest, and different colored legs.
Yeah, straight up the same power, the same version of the power that Husk has without ripping skin off. That's Metamorpho. At the cost of looking hideous.
It was kind of a great idea because there was Husk and there was Jonathan Starsmore. He was called Chamber, and his entire chest and upper.
Yeah, his whole mouth was just constantly spewing flames.
Yep. It was pure psionic energy, and he had to wrap his body in bandages. So he had these two characters, and they had this sort of Scott Summers, Jean Grey thing going on. Do they, don't they like each other? Sort of thing.
They, won't they?
Yeah, it was kind of annoying, but it's like kind of it's cute. But they were obviously like Jonah was not human anymore. He couldn't sleep. He doesn't eat. He's just a shell of a man, and he loves playing his guitar, and he communicates to people telepathically. But he has pure psionic energy like busting out of his body. He doesn't know what to do with. And Husk was
Captain Adam?
Sorry.
So Captain Adam.
A little different than Captain.
Well, at least just living energy.
Oh, Smud, Mondo was in that Generation X TV movie. He was played by Bumper Robinson of all people. What the hell?
Yeah, what they did was like he would grab a brick and he'd like make his fist really hard and then he'd punch someone. And I was like, okay, that's low CGI. I understand what they were doing. But they got rid of Jonathan. They made him basically Scott Summers. He has like laser eyes powers.
Oh, yeah. What was that guy's name again?
I don't know.
Wait. Describe it again. Maybe I can remember.
It was the TV show. It was really bad. So
TV film.
Yeah.
TV film for TV.
It was such a letdown. The CGI was really bad, and it was just funny. Also, I was reading the comment. I'm like, oh my god, they made a freaking TV movie thing. And I was really let down, but that's okay.
It's ass.
Anyway, the comic was cool.
Also, one more thing about Husk. She's also the sister of New Mutants member Cannonball.
Yep. She had that.
Oh, okay.
She had that crazy accent. Yeah, from down south.
Yeah. She's from the south.
Yeah. There it is. Is that Skin or is that? I'm trying to remember who that guy is. I'm not sure.
Wait. Which in the memes? Which
the
one? The
third one, yeah.
On the third one. Oh,
I don't remember who that is.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it is.
Skin was a gray skinned guy, so I don't know if that was him. Anyway. Yeah. But baby, Carl Weezer's ass is pregnant. Oh my god.
Yes, that's the thing. and it's exactly as weird as you think it is.
Right.
709,000 views.
Anthony's track record. Written article for CBR claims that RoboCop is anti-cop. That's weird. Claims that the Xenobites from Hellraiser aren't an evil race? Really? Mistakes Marvel's Hercules for the actual mythology Heracles because the gay. Oh.
What?
Also uses a comic from 2013 that takes place in an alternate universe as a counter-argument. This list is going to be more expansive. Totally a very unbiased and trustworthy individual. Okay. Interesting. Good to know. If you write an article for CBR, if you write an article for CBR, I think you're already on the be careful list. Hawk.
The hell, Hawk.
What'd you do, Hawk?
I know. I can explain this. There some people in the comments earlier thought Reverend Stryker looked like Leslie Nielsen.
Oh. Leslie Nielsen. Okay.
I thought there was a reference to the scene in Naked Gun 33 1/3.
It has to be. It has to be.
Is that
from Naked Gun?
Is that like is there something sexual going on here? All right. X-Men villains that aren't racist humans: Mojo, the Brood, Mr. Sinister, and the Shadow King.
Yeah, because Mojo he's an alien from another dimension who just wants to make shitty TV shows. The Brood are basically just the Tyranids. Mr. Sinister is barely even a human at this point because he's manipulated his DNA so much, and the Shadow King is just a demon. Yeah.
Yep.
There's dozens of villains in both comic. They're DC.
Humans don't care about the color of your skin, only the taste of your soul.
And the Shadow King would agree with you.
They look at your inner value.
Oh my god, what is this? When people are trying to relax, but you're so woke, you just have to drop another truth bomb. Oh my god. Alex
Jones.
Hispanics when you call them a slur. Hispanics when you call them Latin X. Oh,
I can attest to this. I can attest to this because a slur we just shrug it off like it's nothing. But don't you dare call us Latinx.
Oh God. Yeah.
Especially me, since I'm actually Latino, not just Hispanic.
Yeah, they can't. They tried to bring the same thing about German by saying Germixen, but it doesn't land in Germany because we don't actually call ourselves Germans. We call ourselves Deutsch.
He's got,
not to be confused with Dutch.
He's got IEDs.
Got AIDS.
He's got AIDS.
I think that's the Captain Planet episode that did
Yeah.
AIDS. I think those.
Yeah, that's
dudes,
Captain Planet.
I'm pretty sure those two dudes were Verminous Scum's henchmen.
I think, yeah.
Okay. It continues the story. Oh no, I have to read this. Remember when monkeypox was a thing and then it turned out it was mostly present in gay people, leading people to realize it was pretty much a sexually transmitted disease getting spread at gay orgies, which are way more common than people ever knew. And then dogs and children in close proximity to gay people started to get monkeypox. Somehow, nobody knows how they got it. And then monkeypox suddenly left the news as quickly as it arrived. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, very crazy. I'm sure none of these things have anything to do with each other.
We're not just sure we're HIV positive. Okay.
We're not just sure we're HIV positive.
You forced Iceman into this Marvel. Shame on you. Oh my God.
No!
What?
This is fetish crap.
What is that?
Yeah.
That's fetish crap. That's a gay fetish bullshit thing. With disgusting bodies and clothes.
The next one, though.
That's neuralities. All right. Here's Hawk.
Millhouse's parents.
Hello, viewers. It's Hawk here to tell you that all left-wing YouTubers literally live in a delusional fantasy and only ever use headcanon or retcons as evidence for said delusions. It was a little bit of that, but also a lot of cherry picking. And I'm sure, again, there's nothing wrong with having a story about politics or a comic book about that. There's plenty of examples. But to say it's always been that way, it's always is, and it always has been, it's like, well, no, there's plenty of comics that...
Always, 24/7?
Yeah.
And to force your fetish fan fiction to become canon and retcon everything, that is not right.
Yeah, like there's plenty of episodes of Star Trek, the original, that have nothing to do with the American Revolution, or strangely enough, it had to do with the Constitution. This is
Cold War.
Yeah. It's just aliens trying to kill them. Like, what do you do? I don't know.
I like the one where they capture that ancient genocide satellite weapon and try to communicate with it, and then it turns out it's a bomb.
A nomad? We are perfect. We are nomad, or whatever the hell it was.
I think that was it.
He just kills people. It does a lot.
Look at this one though. The next one after the Hawk one.
Marvel's X-Men Green Arc sees Nature Girl murders store clerk over piece of litter, escape punishment. What?
So stupid.
Nature Girl?
Oh, I remember that. I remember that
too.
That was during COVID, so I don't remember that.
It's because she saved a turtle that had
like its neck stuck in like a soda net.
No. It had the damn paper bag from the supermarket down its throat.
Yeah, so she kills the clerk from the supermarket.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Because somebody who bought something at that supermarket had that bag, threw it in the trash ended up in the sea, and her logic is, if I kill the supermarket clerk of the supermarket, I enact revenge on the turtle. Not the guy who threw away the bag or whatever corrupt system doesn't recycle this crap or puts it in a landfill, but pumps it into the sea. Nope, it's the clerk.
Yeah.
This is by the legal definition retarded.
This is
yes, and this is and the left they cheered for this. Therefore, this is awesome.
Well, on the next one, anytime I see
that's because they don't fucking think.
Anytime I see Trump without any context, it looks like he's measuring something with his hands. He's always
everything. He just
he's
talks
measuring
with his hands, Smud. He's a New Yorker.
I want I want a pizza. It's like not this big, but not too big. It's like
He's measuring the insanity.
12 inches, not 14 inches. Nice right size. Good size. Oh my God! What is that? Is that Greta?
Is that Greta?
Yes.
That's Greta.
Oh, that's brilliant.
She's fuming.
That's so good. Is that diesel or really bad oil mixture? I don't know what's happening.
No, it's just
Who
it's like
cares?
it's a pretty thick. It's just decent exhaust. It's just exhaust.
Jesus. Okay.
Like it's just channeling the exhaust through that damn tube for the joke.
When left-wingers go on about their stupid headcanons for their gay fetishism or fetish, can't you tell this story is not gripping me?
No, they can't. Or if they can, they don't care.
They just insist that you do in any way.
Yep.
You just need to try it out. You just need to try the butt sex out. Have you ever given it a try? You don't even know that you're gay. You've never tried it. That's the logic. And I've heard gay people talk like that.
I don't know what Ben and Jerry's particular flavors taste like. I don't think.
Oh God, yeah.
They gave them tons of woke names. That's all about all about these propaganda points.
Non-dairy ice cream. I don't want to know what that tastes like.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's wait. That's a sorbet.
No. You could have dairy and sorbets, just not milk solids. Anyway, who is this? Same guy?
That's Az.
That's Az.
Okay, just put up his Batwoman mascot.
Oh.
He said what needed to be said.
Yes, I agree. Az is a good boy.
Was that like 5 hours after he was playing Starfield?
Yeah, it was when he was talking to the woman who was a clone of a guy.
All right.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Yeah, he's.
And that's still
with the Canadian law changes coming, he maybe should leave.
I think we all should.
Yes, he should. Yes, he should. Oh yeah, hell yeah, he should.
All right. 2 Spider-Man actors endorse a queer Peter Parker, so why not?
Yeah. Take a look at who those two are, and notice who's missing.
Well, if you're an actor already of a character and you find new information about your character, you're going to be for it no matter what it is, because that means you get more work. Spider-Man's gay? Great, I could do that. I could play a gay man. What? Spider-Man's heterosexual again? I could do that too. Like,
This is the infamous tyranny of the majority. So this is by the way, this is one of these tricks they use. So when the majority is for something that they want, they say, oh, the majority is for it, so we must do it. That's democratic. When a minority is for something that they want, they say, we must protect the minority and thus do what the minority says. That's the entire trick.
All right, this is very tiny, but I think it's the full comic.
That's the thing I mentioned. Yeah. Ooh, you're soft.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
pearly white, and you got the cutest little cheeks.
I'm
out of here.
You don't have to. You don't. If it's too small for some of us, yeah, don't.
No.
Me, it's just a cough. Mom, it's just a cough. Doctor, it's just a cough. Google, I diagnose you with dead.
Yeah, that's also from back at the barnyard. That skit, Dr. Pig. That is one of the things they ad-libbed in the final season. Those segments with this character.
And if you had Canada on the list, it would be: do you want us to help you kill yourself?
Yeah.
I didn't read any super chats because I didn't know we had any. But thank you, Caporal, for making your super chat a meme. Guys, he is that bad and evil. Trust me, I know. Let's not go with the evil. Let's just say he's not very good at making an argument. Okay.
An evil argument?
He's not making that argument, but potentially that would be bad too. Anyway, Generation X. Oh, it's the.
Yep, that's the film we were talking about.
Oh my God. Yep. Oh.
That's M, Jubilee, Mondo, Skin, Buff, and that's about it.
There's no template.
This is an actual X-Men thing.
Yeah, they made a live action Generation X.
I thought it was. I thought this was its own thing.
What's wrong with her eye?
It was pretty bad, but it was fun to watch. Though it was like, oh my god!
Why do so many women in Hollywood have like the eyes not focusing?
Emma Frost and Banshee.
Yeah, they're the headmasters, which was a cool combination. I kind of like the way they set it up and how they helped them out. But that's the comic, not the show.
Ow.
Anyway, man. Late 90s, I think. Was that late 90s or early 2000s? I can't remember.
Late 90s.
Yeah. Jeez, the 90s were awesome.
Yes. Last great movie era.
All right, so Caporal did give 2 super chats. You made the one of me and we read. This is the first one. He's like Vosh, will say anything to win an argument. I don't think so. I think he will dismiss, as I've just heard because we stopped the video there. He will just dismiss things he doesn't agree with. And we hear this all the time. It's like, oh, I'm not going to even address that. It's too difficult. It's too complicated. There's too many arguments coming at me. I'll just dismiss them and say what I want. It's kind of like when we talk about looking for evidence for J.K. Rowling. It's like, oh, she's this or that. It's like, can you prove to me? Can you give me an example of her saying or not wanting trans people to be people or whatever? It's like, no, there's no examples of that. But they have to create this world that she's this evil person because she's so popular. And she's a feminist, but not a proponent of whatever the trans movement is, even though she has trans friends. It's kind of weird. They try to justify their hatred of her without giving evidence.
I just lost you. Who is what?
The explanations we get for why J.K. Rowling is what is it? What's the word they look for?
They say transphobic, and she is not transphobic.
Exactly, and she
just likes the fakes who use this as the claim to be that, to be trans, as a shield in order to exploit and abuse women and children. Which is what the fakers do.
Oh,
they have Munchausen syndrome or are hypochondriacs.
There it is. It was a turf. I forgot the term. See, these words don't mean anything to me, so my brain just goes gone, and then I'm like, what the hell is that stupid thing?
She believes in the idea of biological men and women.
Wow, yeah. What an idea.
Which you kind of have, because, if those wouldn't exist, then real trans people wouldn't have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, that was sadly a shortened video. I knew we were going to skip ahead. I didn't know when, but we apparently just stopped out of the unfortunate lack of I don't want to say a lack of intelligence, because clearly he has some intelligence to be able to articulate these ideas. But when you just dismiss arguments and you describe them as they're just words, that implies this level of degradation.
Dishonesty.
Well, let's not imply that. Let's say that he is making the opposing argument so beneath him. He's not even going to address it. He's not going to talk about it. This is so silly. Everyone should know common sense that this is silly. I'm not even going to talk about it. That's the level of ego I think I got from
Everyone should know that I'm right.
I don't.
Why do you even try to make a counter argument? You can't make a counter argument because I'm right.
I don't like listening to people like that, and I don't think we're going to learn anything, because any conclusion, even if it's logical, even if it has some evidence, because obviously he did point to some references, which is good, it's going to be laced with this underbearing nature of, well, I'm not going to listen to anyone else's opinion, and that is not how you come to any helpful agreement or conversation. Like, this is not a guy I'd ever want to talk to. I'm going to leave a comment for the sake of it, but just like that last guy, for different reasons, I will not respond to, unfortunately. Anyway, good video for listening to the other side. Unfortunately, not the best person to listen to the other side about, but to show you where they're coming from.
I'm still open to coming across an honest socialist who makes honest arguments. I
Maybe that unicorn exists somewhere.
Well,
So I don't know how,
they
because you need to. If you make sense, you will see the folly of that whole thing. But who knows?
That's how they don't exist.
Yeah, you know,
I doubt.
yes,
I doubt.
That's my point.
I doubt they could have a rational discussion with anyone just asking simple questions and like, where did you get that? And being able to say, hey, you know, when you paint things with a broad brush, you're missing all the details. And if you show them the details, saying, hey, look at this example of a comic where the X-Men fight a bunch of aliens. What's political about that? And you know, there's all these examples we can pull of stories in comics that have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with energy or political disputes or.
Yeah, and Smut, there's also, you mentioned this earlier, but like, I'm sorry, it was mentioned earlier, but like, people don't have an issue with comics tackling political subject matter. A reason we hate it nowadays is how they do it. You know what I'm saying? We hate how they go about it.
I think maybe it's more to do with what the issue is. Like when you do any idea or present any idea, political or otherwise, doesn't really matter to me. And it's the actual message, or it's presented as a message, as opposed to being a component of a character. And that's usually how you do things in a hookish style. So you want to hook the character into another, you want to hook the audience into a character. So you don't just say, look at this interesting character. You say, no. Let them do the thing that they're good at and then learn about them. Like, how are they so good? Is there a backstory? Is there some history with another character? Is there some tragic past? Like that's the natural way of learning about someone in a comic or a book or a story.
Well, yes, Smut. I'm mainly talking about like the execution. I do not think these people really know how to properly tell the story. You know what I'm saying? I do not think they have the skill or the capability to execute the story properly. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the example of, let's say, Iceman that he brought up, or at least showed one of the pages, and he was describing it as, well, this is silly. He's not brainwashed. He was just in his least influenced time so that he was less repressed or whatever. You're like, okay, that is technically possible, but it's also possible that if you read the story and pay attention, that Jean Grey was manipulating his brain. And I'm going to go out and read that episode just to say, because I know I've read it before, but I want to see it again.
Yeah. Well, I've got stuff to say about that, but I'll save it for another time because I don't want to hold us up here. So
this is obviously going to keep going on from these people with new media. I think that's one of the topics he wanted to talk about in his video, because he has it all timed indexed. And new media to me means not just video games, but any kind of
just recently released stuff
in the fashion of interactive media, or like, let's say, digital comics or interactive comics. So it could be whatever new formats he's referring to. It could be like VR, who knows? Like that would have been interesting to see what that is. And I wouldn't say that the nature of that has nothing to do with wokeness, because I've worked on projects that have VR and augmented reality projects as well, and like this has nothing to do with the medium. Is not the political message. That's not a Marshall McLuhan idea. That's has nothing to do with the content. So I wish that we would have a more intellectual conversation about the presence of using political ideas in storytelling appropriately. And again, I don't care if it's woke. I don't care if it's left or right or middle or centrist, or it doesn't really matter to me. It's how it's done. And you have to do it with character. You have to do it with plot, themes, whatever technique you like. You can't just throw it on the page and say, retcon, here we are. And that does not help the audience. It confuses the audience, unfortunately, especially people who like the comics. Anyway. Thank you, guys. That was our Saturday presentation of Anthony Gramuglia.
Gramuglia.
Yet another woke leftist.
Welcome to the Smudcast Rogues Gallery, Anthony.
Anyway.
No, the Smudcast Rose Gallery is everyone we've blacklisted.
Uh,
like Joe or Pillar.
No, they're just into containment. You know that
they're in their
villain prison in the sea
they're in,
where no one gets out.
They're in Arkham Asylum.
All right. Anyway, we will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a good weekend.
All right. Thanks for finally inviting me on, guys, and I hope to do this again some other time.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.